Hi, I am Anaya. I grew up in the small town of Kovai in northeast India. Today I am going to share my first ever supernatural experience as a child. This happened in the fall of 2006. I was turning 11 that winter, and my youngest aunt came to stay with us that year. We had a somewhat big family at the time with 6 members living under the same roof, with my dad, mom, my younger brother who was then only a year old, my 17-year-old half-sister and my maternal aunt who was only 3 years older than my sister. I remember the day so vividly. Our community was celebrating the regional festival. My family and I spent the whole day there. I remember somewhere in the middle of the day, I was asked to bring a scarf for one of my relatives who also joined us for the celebration. When I asked for the key, my mom said my aunt and older sister had already gone home, and the front gate to enter our house should be unlocked when I reached there. So, I left without any further question. When I reached our house, what I saw was a bit of a shock to me as it was locked from outside and I did not have the key with me to open it. At first, it occurred to me to go back and tell my mom that the 2 ladies were not in fact home. But instead, something told me to go around and look for them. My aunt, older sister and their mutual friend Tina would always join us for daily strolls around the neighborhood and would spend some time at the huge school football field. So, I thought maybe they went there as earlier that day we were talking about going for a walk there. It was really unlikely of them to leave without me, but I figured maybe they had already left and thought I would join them over there. So, I decided to go there. Now, it is important to mention that there were 2 ways to reach that field, one that would take around 20 minutes and the other around 10 at most. Not to mention I have never walked there on my own. It didn't take me long to decide as the 10 minutes walking distance seemed like the most logical solution. On my way to the football field, I crossed some houses when a stray dog noticed me and kept staring. This made me nervous, and I did what nobody should do. Ran. I ran with all I had and kept telling myself this is probably how I die. The dog kept running after me until it didn't anymore. But it kept barking still. As the sound of barking faded little bit, I looked back to realize he had stopped like there was an invisible wall of some kind that he couldn't pass. But he just kept barking at me loudly from a distance. It didn't make sense. When I looked right in front me, remembering the scene gives me chills till this day. An old lady who I think was in her 90s, dressed in a white sari was cleaning herself with the water flowing from a public filter nearby. And she was standing right underneath a berry tree. Now what is interesting about this is the fascinating myth about berry trees that is told in many parts of India. I had heard it as a child many times from great-granddads and other family members. The myth says that berry trees make good homes for witches and supernatural beings. Among all these, the part that came to me as the most horrifying was her smile and the sound of the distant dog barking. For a place with so many houses and a school nearby, that place seemed soulless and extremely quiet. It felt like as if time had stopped. As I passed her, my heart was racing 1,000 miles an hour, and every other thought seemed to fade away. As soon as I reached the field, I looked back to see if I can still see her. But I did not. Neither her nor the dog. I recollected my thoughts and thought this whole business was just a coincidence. Then I realized the best thing to do now would be to go back home, but wait, this time, the longer way seemed like a better idea. As I was walking back home, the frightening sight of the smiling wrinkled face and the sound of the dog's barking kept coming back to me. Just as I stood outside the front gate, I heard laughter and light conversations, which were difficult to make out. But it sounded like my aunt and others were back. This time the gate was open, so I just ran up to them and asked furiously where were they when they were supposed to be home. Why did they leave without at least letting anyone else know where the key was? And told them how troubling it was for me to go through all this just to reach them. They looked at me as if I had gone crazy, and my aunt replied, "We never really left home." They had been home for over 2 hours, and there was no lock from outside. I was shocked to my core. At first, I thought they were just having fun with me to scare me, but then when I started crying from frustration, they seemed genuinely worried, and said I was probably mistaken about the lock. But I knew, until this day I believe I had seen the lock on the gate. Till this day, I am confused about the whole business. There are questions that still keep bugging me, like, were they really home? Or was there a mistake with the time? But that can't be. Why did the dog stop suddenly 40 feet away from the lady? And why did he not run after me anymore, but just kept barking from there? Let me know in comments what you guys think about this.